Let's turn our attention to where we are with Donald Trump and, well, how he's dealing with Russia and indeed how he's dealing with Israel. President Netanyahu is there in the White House on a state visit. Retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges joins us now. He's the former commander of the US Army in Europe. A very, very good morning to you.
Hey, Julia, thanks for giving me another chance.
Always great to have you on the show and get your expertise and interest. Let's talk first of all about President Netanyahu. He's at the White House yesterday to surprise the president, who got all coy with a revelation. He'd written a letter to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee saying he'd nominated Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize. Does he deserve one?
You know, first of all, I doubt it was a surprise. I've never liked the idea of somebody seeking an award, and President Trump has made it very clear that he really wants the Nobel Peace Prize. I would never have presented an award to any officer of mine in combat that I thought was actively seeking that award, and so it's just really inappropriate. But I would still say it's premature, way too early for something like this.
Wait a minute, it's not as early as Obama. 11 days into his first term in office, he was nominated.
And that was premature also.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be it's a fair criticism to make. And so I would also say that was way premature. So whether or not he deserves it, I think it's premature for me to say that.
Yeah, well, indeed. Well, I mean, let's talk about where we are in the Middle East, because he's basically dealing with two particular issues at the moment. Well, current issues in the Middle East with Israel and Gaza and Iran, obviously, but also dealing with Ukraine, which we'll come to, and obviously at some point dealing with China and Taiwan, as many are expecting. But he said that he thinks that talks to end the war in Gaza have been going along very well. He's talked about he thinks that we could have a deal within the week. He said that Israel wants to end the war, Hamas want to end the war. The reality of this is, though, that they want to end the war on different terms. Israel wants to end the war with no Hamas, and Hamas wants to end the war with no Israel having any occupying status whatsoever in Gaza, which, of course, is untenable to the Israeli government, given what happened on October the 7th. So are you hopeful that we will see any peace? And do you think that part of that is going to be these sort of internment camps, which have been suggested by the Israeli defense minister?
Well, there's a reason that there's been war in this area for so long, is because the desires on all the different sides are so different from each other. My problem is that the Netanyahu government, the way that they have used force in such a terrible way against the innocent people that are in Gaza, separate people from Hamas, they should burn in hell forever. But the innocent people that are caught up in this, have paid a huge price at the
But the Israelis say they're not attacking the civilians. Hamas put the civilians as their human shield. Do Israel just simply not take on Hamas then because Hamas do that?
Well, Julia, British soldiers and American soldiers could never use force against a village where the Taliban was located indiscriminately, because we would know that there were civilian Afghans.
I thought we did.
Also there.
I thought we did repeatly.
Absolutely not legally. I'm not saying it never happened, but we were not permitted, nor should we do it. Great Britain would not want its soldiers killing innocent people as a matter of policy. And I think the Israeli approach has been much more liberal use of firepower in areas where they know there are civilians. And of course, Hamas knows that, just like the Taliban would hide inside, and Al-Qaeda would hide inside mosques, because they know that we don't use force or weapons against
But it's Hamas committing the war crime by using the human shield. I mean, what is Israel supposed to do? We just leave Hamas there, carry on as you were? We'll just wait for the next October the 7th? What are their choices?
Come on, you can do better than that.
No, I don't. What are their choices?
Of course, Hamas is committing war crime, and that's why I said all of them should burn in hell forever. But the burden on protecting the civilians, innocent people that are caught up in this, is always on the military.
But then an internment, a camp where you vet everybody, right, you're fine, right, we'll take you in, you're fine. I mean, that would keep civilians safe, but we're told that would also be a war crime.
Well, I think I'm a little uneasy even talking about this, because it looks like we're starting to do that in the United States now also, as as the Trump administration builds up internment camps in America.
Yeah, okay. Well, then people are in the country illegally.
Well,
I if I arrive in America and I'm illegal, illegal immigrant, I would expect to be sent home. And if I don't agree to go home, I'm going to have to be interned before I get sent. I don't, in theory, in principle, have an issue with this.
The problem is that a lot of people that are being swept up by the ICE are here legally, and ICE is out to get numbers. So the indiscriminate grabbing of people off the street, that's my problem.
Yeah, you need. I mean, there certainly needs to be a very, very, very clear sort of appeal process and going through absolutely the proper channels, don't we? Let's talk about Russia, because we've seen the tariff pause that has ended for countries like South Korea and Japan. We've also seen Donald Trump saying he wants to use tariffs to punish Russia and allies of Russia, the BRIC countries in particular. He's got a fresh wave of levies that are coming on what he calls the anti-American group of BRIC nations, including Russia, facing extra tariffs of 10%. Is that going to make any difference to anything?
Well, honestly, there's a reason that people have given him the nickname of Taco, that he always chickens out, because he backs away. Even, I guess yesterday, they extended the deadline on tariffs again. The problem is that he's so inconsistent and he changes so quickly that it's difficult for governments and nations to actually plan, and as well as American businesses to plan on what are they really going to do. And, for the president, for him, he treats all this as if he's negotiating over a townhouse in Manhattan instead of something that affects millions of people's lives. And so this is not a good way for the United States to protect its strategic interests when it seems to be so helter-skelter on how he does it.
And haphazard. And indeed, again, even the tariffs on the UK, well, we don't have a big trade deficit with the US, but also one would expect a big trade deficit if you're a very, very, very wealthy country with a lot of people who can afford to buy stuff from around the world. Of course, you're going to have a trade deficit with a lot of those countries. There is an argument, though, certainly I've always felt this dealing with Russia. A lot of, they've got these all these sanctions on Russia, but they can't sell to the West. Oh, well, they'll just sell to India, and then we'll buy them back from India. Or they go to Kazakhstan, we buy them back from Kazakhstan. We should not be allowing that to happen, and we should be punishing the countries that have picked the wrong side. This is good and evil. Pick the right side.
Yeah, well said. The best tool that we have against Russia is economic leverage to shut down their ability to export oil and gas that they're selling to India and China. If we did that, this war would come to a screeching halt, what they're doing against Ukraine. But we don't do that, and there's too many holes in all of our different sanctions protocols. But use tariffs as part of an overall strategy, not as some game to inflict pain on other countries.
Yeah, and indeed on everyone, indeed. Really good to get your thoughts. We've covered a lot of ground there, very brief. I hope you'll come on again very soon. Lieutenant General retired Ben Hodges, he's the former commander of the US Army in Europe.